Sure, here's a 2,500-word love story centered around a truck driver. The Road to Her Heart. Jason Thompson had always been a man of few words, but when he got behind the wheel of his truck, he felt like he could conquer the world. As a long-haul truck driver, he had spent countless hours on the open road, listening to the hum of his rig and the soft music on the radio. The road was both his sanctuary and his prison. His friends often joked about his solitary life, but Jason didn't mind. He didn't need anyone, or so he thought. It was one ordinary Wednesday, as he made his way down a lonely stretch of highway in Montana, that everything changed. The sky was overcast, and the forecast promised rain by evening, but Jason's mind was elsewhere. His truck rolled steadily down the road, and the miles ticked away like seconds. He passed a truck stop, as he often did, but something caught his attention. A red Mustang was parked out front, the engine still warm, and a woman was standing next to it, holding a sign that read, "Need a ride to Spokane." Jason's instincts told him to keep driving. He didn't pick up hitchhikers. Too dangerous. But something about the woman, standing there with the wind whipping her dark hair across her face, gave him pause. Her eyes met his for just a second, and Jason found himself slowing down. Without realizing it, he pulled into the truck stop and parked his rig. He stepped out of the cab and walked toward the woman. She was young, mid-20s maybe, with a worn leather jacket and a backpack slung over her shoulder. Her face was freckled, with a pair of blue eyes that sparkled in a way that made Jason's heart beat a little faster. "Hey there," Jason said, his voice gruff. "You need a ride?" The woman smiled, though it seemed a little hesitant. "I do," she said. "I'm trying to get to Spokane. My car broke down and I can't afford a tow. I don't want to get stuck here." Jason paused. He had a lot of miles to cover, but he didn't like the idea of leaving her stranded either. "I'm heading that way. I can give you a ride, but I'm in a truck. Not exactly comfortable." Her grin widened. "I don't mind. I'm just happy for the ride." And so, just like that, they set off together. The first few miles were quiet. Jason kept his eyes on the road, navigating the curves and bumps in the asphalt. The woman, whose name was Emma, settled into the passenger seat, pulling out a book to read. Her presence felt oddly comforting, even though they didn't speak much. Jason couldn't help but notice how the light seemed to soften around her, how the sound of her laughter had a natural warmth to it. They talked occasionally, mostly small talk, but it was enough. Enough to make Jason realize that he wasn't alone in the world. As they drove through the vast open plains, the rain finally began to fall. It started slowly but then came in steady sheets. The windshield wipers worked tirelessly, and Jason turned on the radio, the soft country tunes filling the air. Emma, looking out the window, spoke up. "So, how long have you been driving trucks?" she asked, her voice breaking through the quiet hum of the truck. Jason glanced at her, his eyes flickering to her face for a moment, before returning to the road. "About 10 years now," he replied. "Mostly long haul. Been everywhere, really." "That sounds lonely," Emma said softly, her gaze turning back to the rain. "You must get tired of the road sometimes." Jason wasn't sure how to answer. He'd never really thought about it that way. The road had always been his escape, his freedom. "I guess I've gotten used to it," he said, his voice low. "Not much for company. Keeps me focused." Emma seemed to understand, but she didn't push. Instead, she changed the subject, asking him about the best place he had ever visited on his travels. They traded stories for the next couple of hours, laughter filling the truck as the miles slipped by. By the time they reached Spokane, the rain had stopped and the sky was clearing. Jason pulled into a gas station, the engine of his rig rumbling to a stop. "Well, this is where I get off," Emma said, unbuckling her seatbelt. She turned to Jason with a smile. "Thanks for the ride, Jason. I really appreciate it." Jason nodded. "No problem. You stay safe, all right?" "I will," she said, her smile softening. "You too." For a moment, neither of them moved. They just looked at each other, the silence stretching between them. Jason felt an unexpected tug at his chest. He didn't want her to leave. Not yet. There was something about Emma that made him feel not alone. But how could he say that? Before he could form the words, Emma grabbed her backpack and opened the door. She stopped just as she was about to step out, turning to face him one last time. "You know," she said, "if you ever find yourself passing through Spokane again, let me know. I'll buy you coffee." Jason blinked, a little taken aback by the offer. "I'll keep that,"